Hi, my name is Mick Finch and welcome back to Blue Chip Machine Shop. Tonight we're going to be illustrating how to properly lubricate the South Bend lathe using my South Bend lathe and the South Bend lathe's lubrication chart. This was published back in 1967, so it's not thoroughly up to date, but most of these lathes are pretty generic, and this will be a great help to anybody who's doing it for the first time. As you get used to using your machine, it becomes second nature, but for the first time it's always a good idea to use the factory publications to get you over the hump. I've pulled out a fresh South Bend lathe recommended lubrication kit to show you how to do this. As I said, it's pretty simple, but once you've seen it once. These kits kind of came about a couple of years back when I had been selling machine tool lubricants, and one of my customers suggested I market one as the ABC kit, the recommended oils for the South Bend lathe, and I took his advice. I'm glad I did, because we've passed quite a few of these kits on to customers, and I like to think that they're extending the life of the machines they're being used on. So what I'll be doing is going through each particular oil and showing you where it goes on the lathe, and then we'll be moving around the machine, so I may have to stop and set up the camera to get some better angles for you. But with that, let's get started. Okay, the first oil we'll be using is the A oil, which is used in the headstock. These are the oil cups for your headstock spindle bearings, and they're a Kitz oiler. You just flip the top up, top them off, and you don't have to worry about being neat. It's a total loss machine. Any oil that you put in is just going to run right out, which is a big plus come lubrication time. If the oil's running out, you know you got oil in there. If it's not, you need to add more. Down below this is the oiler for the electric motor that runs your lathe. My particular lathe has sealed bearings in it, so I won't be showing you that, but the headstock bearing is the primary spot you're going to be using the A oil. Let me move the camera over and I'll show you the apron. The Apron Reservoir also takes the A oil. Its oiler is down here below the hand wheel, and again you just fill the reservoir up. There's a sump down here that if you overfill it, it will just run out. First time you get a new machine, I recommend you pull this drain plug on the bottom and drain the reservoir. You may have to get a toothpick or a pick up there to break through the sludge, let it drain, and probably fill it with kerosene or mineral spirits. Let it run a little bit and it'll loosen up the sludge. That will come out, and then you refill it with A oil, which is Mobile Velocity number 6. I'm sorry, number 10. and that reservoir will feed the wick. That there's a felt wick that runs through your gearbox and saddle, and that will keep everything well lubricated. But it's probably a good idea to change the oil pretty much like you would if you bought a new car or a used car. Change the oil, get the old stuff out, and replenish it with brand new. Those two spots are the primary spots on the lathe that are going to be using the A oil. Let's move on to the B oil now. Okay, the B oil is going to be used primarily in your gearbox, quick change gearbox if you've got it. And you have two Gitz oilers on the top that are flip up, and you fill them up. This should be done on a daily basis. That will keep all the rotating shafts and the gears in your gearbox lubricated. There's a felt wicks inside your counter shafts and inside the gears, which retain the oil, and you want to keep that filled. Basically, more oil is better. You want to keep the felt wicks lubricated so that they will transfer that oil onto the shafts and you won't wear out bearings. It works really well if you keep up with it, but you do have to keep up with it. So the rest of the lathes, the 16 and the 24-inch lathe, have a 2-speed reduction box in the drive down below, where you would use the B, and the turret lathes also use the B oil in the lathe turrets, but I don't have that, so I can't show that to you. But this is the primary area where the B oil is used, and you do want to keep up with that. So let's move on to the C oil, which is where the bulk of your oiling is going to take place. Okay, here we'll start here with the C oil. I'll show you the chart a little bit later. I've kind of color-coded these to give you an idea of where they're applied, but we'll start on the compound. You've got three primary spots that have little cap screws, very small cap screws. You're going to need a small screwdriver, but these lubricate the screws on your compound and cross slide. All three of these are marked oil. I don't know if it shows up on the video, but what you want to do is pretty much flood these things with oil and work them back and forth. That will lubricate the screws. And this is for your upper compound, the cross feed nut. I'm probably over lubricating it here, but better too much than too little, I always say. Anyway, you work it back and forth, and it will run nice and smooth. Doesn't take all that much, but helps if you get the screws back in the same hole. This one here, you want to get it below the surface of the way. Otherwise, next time you extend it all the way out, you're going to have a binding problem. The chart recommends you doing it daily. I don't think, unless you're in a production shop, daily's absolutely necessary, but it can't hurt. These screws are a bit of a pain sometimes. Probably better to put an Allen cap screw in there, but I don't want to have one handy right at the moment, so I'll just keep moving. Best put the cap screws back in so you don't get swarf and junk down in there. The sea oil is fairly thick oil. It's has the same viscosity rating as the whey oil, but it has different characteristics. It's a circulating oil rather than a whey lubricant, so it doesn't have the tactifiers in it that cause it to stick on vertical surfaces. It runs a little bit more, but that's one of the benefits to using that type of oil. Also, it's a good idea to lubricate your dials. That will keep everything kind of cleaned out and works very well. If you loosen up these two bolts, you can get underneath your compound and lubricate that. I tend to leave mine set at 29.5 degrees, so it'll stay there, and periodically I'll take it off and clean it. Let's move on to the tail housing, or tailstock rather, and give you a look at that. There's a couple of areas here that need to be lubricated. You'll notice on this there's two Gitz oilers here. I've added those. I believe from the factory they come with set screws in them. At least mine did. But I like the Gitz oilers. You can just put a little oil on the spindle and back here, and you can see that moves pretty smoothly. It's doesn't take much. Periodically just hit that with your sea oil, and you know, maybe put a little on the threads here and there. That's about all you have to do there. Okay, the feed screw is supported by a Babbitt bearing want to fill that. And at the same time, you can lubricate your feed screw. I'll move the camera a little bit so you can see the rest of it. No, maybe not. You get the idea. Just get your feed screw pretty well lubricated. The saddle and half nut lubrication points are here. You can fill them liberally. There is a reservoir in there that will run over when it's full. But those will lubricate the half nuts that come around and grab your feed screw and cause the saddle and carriage to travel along the ways of the bed. I always try to, put a little lubricant on anything that rotates, just to keep things free. And that's where, sea oil is pretty much, I call it everything else oil. You've got just about everything on the lathe needs to be lubricated with sea oil. If you got a micrometer stop, put some on any of the parts that rotate. These micrometers are very fine thread, and you want to keep them well lubricated. Let me move you to a better angle. Getting a lot of spooge dripping off of the cross feed screw, and you can wipe that stuff up, but the dark stuff that's running is dirt and junk. That's why it's important to lubricate this stuff. That stuff will run off, and if you keep your machine absolutely pristine and pretty, you won't get any of that. But how many of us really do that? I use my lathe, and it gets dirty, so I like to keep oil on it to get the junk to run off a little bit. I guess let me move this camera just a little bit and show you one more spot that the sea oil is lubricating. Coming out of your gearbox is the coupler bearing. What do they call it? They call it idler gear bearing on your cross feed, and it's a ball bearing. It couples your gearbox, quick change gearbox, to your feed screw, and you can, that again, you use the sea oil there. I always put a little on the joint of the spindle threads where the chuck backing plate goes on, to keep those threads lubricated. Good idea to take your chuck off every once in a blue moon too. That'll keep it clear. Also down here, your belt tensioner. The chart recommends a little sea oil there. They recommend oil daily. In the real world, I don't think anybody really does, but That's what they call for. And that will keep this lever running smoothly. Okay, let's move on and take a look at the way oil. Way oil is the darker oil in the kit. It's not a circulating oil. It's a stickier oil. It's full of what they call tactifiers, which allow the oil to stick to the ways of the lathe. Primarily, it's used on your saddle. I've installed larger reservoirs on my lathe. Don't be shy about using this stuff. Get your hands on there and spread it out. This is the stuff that has a lot to do with the accuracy of your lathe. If you don't lubricate these, they pick up abrasives and they become inaccurate. So good idea to just put the stuff on and massage it. You get to feel if there's any burrs on your bed. You do not want to file them, but if you have a burr that you can feel with your nail, it's best to stone it down. Just take the high spots off. Don't try to remove the mark. You're never going to remove the mark. Just take the high spot off, and that will allow everything to move freely. But that's very important. You got to keep the bedways lubricated. The ways have felt wipers on them. You can pull these screws out. There's 4 of them on the saddle, and there's 1 in the front of the tailstock. And you can take them off, replace them as they get full of swarf and abrasives, and they're called wipers because they wipe the ways clean so that you don't have that stuff continually running on your bedways. It's very important that they stay clean, otherwise these bedways will get all scored. My lathe is an older lathe, and it's got some scoring, not much. It's in pretty fair shape actually, but the bulk of the wear you're going to find on most lathes is in the first 12 inches beyond the headstock, because that's where people typically run their lathes. So it's a good idea to keep that well lubricated. But these reservoirs will meter oil out slowly, and everything will continue to run smoothly. That just about covers the bulk of the oiling. I do want to relocate the camera so you can get a look at the headstock gearing and some of the oiling that goes on there. So let me change camera angles again. Okay, one more area that's fairly important, and we're going to be using the sea oil again, is the headstock gearing, or what they call the twin gears, and also your reverse bracket. These are all lubricated with sea oil. This is the bracket that changes the direction of your gearing. What you can do, this is probably easier done with the machine running, is just throw some sea oil on there. The gears will rotate and bring the gear oil up around to your spindle gear. You'll get a better feel for how much to use with the machine running. If it starts to sling it off, you've probably got enough on there. But it doesn't take much, and it doesn't take very often. They call for the twin gears to be lubricated daily. I've got to be honest, I don't do it daily, but I probably should, because gears are expensive and they'll get noisy. It's a good idea. This is your bull gear. Throw some oil on that, rotate it around. Let me change the angle just a little bit, give you a better look here, because I get a lot of questions about this. If you, I don't know if I can zoom in on it. You'll see you've got a screw here on your belt pulley, and you've got a screw here on the bull gear. Mine is marked grease. Some of the earlier lathes will be marked oil. The story that I have gotten from a couple of people that I respect greatly regarding South Bend lathes is that they originally used this, designated this to be oiled with bee oil, and apparently there was some question in the service department at South Bend Lathe Works that the lathes weren't being lubricated frequently enough for the bee oil to keep all the mechanisms inside the spindle hub free, and they called for the use of a grease called Roy Dean grease, which is no longer being produced. There's two vendors that still have a very small quantity of it. One is Steve Wells, and the other one is a guy by the name of Steve Brooks. Steve Wells sells on his website, and Steve Brooks sells it on eBay. I'll see if I can put the website and the eBay user names up there for you. But bottom line is, both of these guys have told me that the grease is no longer being produced, and spoke with Steve Wells not too long ago about a substitute. I did get a quantity of the substitute grease. I don't have the specs on hand right now, but it's a very close reproduction of the Roy Dean grease, which shortly will not be available anymore, unfortunately. But in lieu of that, I've been using B oil or C oil in here and on my bull gear just to keep things free. But I will shortly be carrying that on the website also. So if you absolutely have to have grease, then it will be available for you. But it's kind of a there's no real quantity specifications on how much you're supposed to use that I've found anyway, and I will try to get a little bit more information on that. But as I said, I've been using oil in my grease hole and on the bull gear also, and it's been working out fine for me. Everything's free, but I'm more geared towards lubrication than some people. So if you only are going to look at that once a year, maybe you do need the Teflon grease. But I'll go into that a little bit more later. But let me I'm going to change angles again and show you the chart so that you can get a look at the frequency. Well, that's pretty awkward. Okay. Okay, as I said, I color coded this just for. Let me start this over again. Hang on. Okay, what I've done is I've kind of highlighted on the lubrication chart, which you can download this on Blue Chip Machine Shop. What I've done is highlighted some of the areas that are lubricated with each oil. That A-type oil is in yellow here, which would be your spindle bearings, your motor bearings, drive motor bearings, and your apron reservoir. You can see there's basically only 3 spots that you use it frequently, but to be honest with you, I use it for a light lubricant. It keeps the lathe rust free. The B oil is used probably the least frequently, mostly on turret lathes, on the larger lathes, on the motor gearbox, on the 16 and 24, and your gearbox. That's important. You know, you want to use the right oil there. I should probably mention to you the B and the C oil are circulating oils, and they carry rust and what's called R and O emulsifiers in it, rust and oxidation preventers, anti-foaming agents, so that they can run in a machine without foaming up, but they will keep the rust down. The A oil is a very lightweight circulating oil that's a non-detergent oil. So inside the reservoirs here, what you do not want is for any contamination to be circulated with the oil, because it's a non-detergent oil. The contamination will not stay in suspension, and it will drop into the reservoir, and you can drain the reservoir periodically, like changing the oil on your car. These things don't have filters, so it's kind of important to keep clean oil in them. At some point I'm going to be knocking this headstock apart for a good cleaning, and I'll probably shoot a video on that, but it won't be this week. Anyway, the B oil, getting back to the B oil, you can see the orange spots. You don't use it in too many spots. It is important you use it in your gearbox though. The primary oil you're going to be using is the C oil. That is marked, let's see, in blue. And you can see you're using it on the headstock gears and reverse idler, spindle threads, taper attachment if you've got it, we'll be using it. All of your screws on your compound and cross slide will be using the C oil. Your tailstock, we've gone into that before. Your apron, it's used, I call it the everything else oil, because everything that isn't specifically spindle oil or whey oil, you're using it on everything. You're going to use a fair amount of this, and it's a good thick lubricant. It will stick, and it gives good protection. But you can see all the blue areas marked are your C oil, and you're using a fair bit of it. The whey oil is used primarily on the ways, any sliding surface of your lathe. Occasionally I will use it on the compound and cross slide. It's sticky, it gives good protection where you have compressive surfaces running together and they need to be lubricated, and that's what it's made for, and it sticks. It's got tactifiers in there that cause it to stick to the ways. But I don't want to beat you to death on this. Machines are expensive. Oil is cheap. I don't want to get preachy about it, but it's a lot cheaper to buy good oil than it is to buy good lathes. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm trying to keep my machines alive, and I think buying the best oils you can are a good investment. So much for my shameless sales pitch. Obviously, these oils are available on bluechipmachineshop.com. Hope you'll stop by and take a look in the store. We got lots of good stuff for machine tools, trying to get more and more every day. But primarily, I wanted to get this out there and show you what South Bend Lathe Works themselves say about the lubrication of these machines, because they are the people that made them, and they didn't get a good reputation by having people wear their stuff out by pouring motor oil or hog snot on them. They recommended using these oils, and I've had good luck with them. I know I've had pretty good feedback from my customers about it, so hope maybe you'll try them. At any rate, I will be back sometime in the future. I've got some repairs I got to do on this, and maybe somebody might enjoy seeing them. I'm not Tom Lipton, I'm not Keith Fenner, I'm not Keith Rucker. I wish I was, but my videos are not as polished as theirs are. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much, and hope you'll stop back again sometime. Thanks for watching.